$800 sales, and my manager knew, but someone else, like, he didn't do it that day. The only people that are still there, or when you that's not it. You want to have full origin expenses. Everything.
All right, we're going to get started in just a moment. All right. Is Nord just not coming back or taking the rest of the day off?
The other door was open. I just came in.
Maybe he got to take care of. Thanks, Nord. Good job. Letting them all in and stuff. Good work. All right. We're going to get started. So, a couple of points. One, starting Wednesday, for all of you folks, we're not going to have the straps on the doors anymore. The doors will be unlocked between 5:30 and 6:30. They're locked at 6:30. It's an automatic thing that's happening. So don't come in after 6:30, please. Someone will have to come down and get you, and it'll be really irritating. Also, the doors will be locked after 6:30 for the rest of the night. So when you go out to go do something or whatever, hang out outside during the break, one of us, the TAs or myself or someone, will be down there to let you guys back in, basically, because you won't be able to get back in because the straps are gonna be gone. So just to let you know, but from 5:30 to 6:30 you should be able to get in without any trouble after this, which will be great. Cool. Another thing to clarify: we have Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, and then the Wednesday after that are our presentations for this project. So you have 4 class periods to work on them. And so because of that, today is a lot of going over tooling and things you can do with GitHub to make your life easier. And I'm kind of going to blow through it because to me, it's not that important how you manage your tasks. You should know that there are tools to help you do it, but we're all adults. We can figure out how to manage our tasks as a team. I do recommend that you pick someone to kind of be your product owner, the person who kind of helps drive what needs to get done. They're not the leader of the team or anything like that. They're just responsibility is to make sure tasks are getting done, people are on top of it, and that nothing's being left behind that you guys deem as critical functionality, right? So picking someone to do that is a good idea, and having them decide a good way to manage that either through Trello or GitHub issues or GitHub projects or some other, application that lets you do a Kanban style kind of setup would be great. So what we're going to do to start class, this is what I do think is important, and we'll go over it a bit, is I'm going to go through the flow of creating a new repo on GitHub, adding collaborators, creating branches, opening PRs. I'm going to have Chris become a collaborator. He's going to merge my PR, and we're going to see what this looks like, and I'll go through it real slow, and then I'll have you all go through it one more time to refresh yourselves with the branching and GitHub and how it all works. And if you have any questions, let me know. Yeah, we'll go from there. So you don't have to follow along this first time as I start out, because we'll give you time to go through it. So anyway, come to GitHub, and I'm starting our project, right? So I'm the guy who's designated with creating it. And so when you open up the main GitHub page, there's a nice big button that says New Repository. That's what you want to click. You click that, you'll come to a page like this, okay? Where it says who the owner is. It's me. You give a repo name. I'm going to call this Project 1. Give it a better name than Project 1. Awesome or something. Give it a real name, the name of your product. Don't call it Project 1. I don't want to see a bunch of Project 1 links. Come on, you guys can be creative. You can give it a description if you want. Keep it public because you have to pay for private. So I imagine you don't want to do that. We want to initialize a README. READMEs are important. They're a great place to store information about how your process works. So if you have any build tools or you have any rules about making branches or anything like that, sometimes it's good to put it in the README. The structure of the app, sometimes it's good to put in README. Put as much as you want in there, but they can be very helpful. Documentation goes a long way. A git ignore, you don't need one of those right now, and a license, you don't need one of those right now. If you want one, you can go ahead and generate one. I don't think they have git ignores for HTML or even CSS because there aren't really any artifacts that you don't want. So we won't need those yet. License you don't need, but you could make it MIT or something if you wanted to make it open source. Anyway, create repository. Boom. The README is the only thing I really care about. So we're here. This is my new GitHub project. The first things first, I'm going to add Chris as a collaborator. He doesn't need to do anything yet because I don't have anything here, but he should be aware that the repo exists. So I go to the settings, I go to collaborators, I have to re-enter my password, and I can just go ahead and put his username in there, and there he is. He's now a collaborator. So when he accepts that, he'll be able to go into my repo and see everything he needs to see, which is good. So if I refresh, you know, I can see what's going on there. But anyway, another thing to do, bookkeeping kind of thing, is you go to the branches. We want to designate a branch to be our protected branch. Our protected branch is something that can't be deleted, can't be easily overwritten. You want to do that because guess what? People are going to accidentally do that if you don't. They're going to push to master or something dumb. It happens all the time. It's not because they're not paying attention. It's because Git can be confusing, you know. So anyway, we'll pick our default branch as master. We're going to go ahead and add some rules. And the rule is going to apply rule to master, right? We want to require pull request reviews. We want to protected branch won't be able to be deleted. So if we just require pull request reviews, basically what this is going to say is before people can merge into master, they have to get reviewed and someone else has to merge it. Okay, you can't just blindly merge stuff into master. We could go ahead and override that rule for administrators if you really needed to, but I don't think it's a good idea, to be completely honest. Just deal with the rules. And that's the good bookkeeping you should always do when you set up a repo. Make sure that your master branch is protected from dumb things that will eventually happen, because they will. Okay, so we're here at the code, right? And we're going to get started. I'm going to create some stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this link right here. You could clone or download. I'm using SSH on my machine. You can use HTTPS. It's up to you. If you don't have your SSH stuff set up anymore and you don't want to do it again, you don't need to. Just easier. So I click this little button right here and it copies it to my command line. If I open up my terminal, and right here I'm in this directory, I can just do git clone, and I can paste the link there, and we'll go ahead and clone it into project 1. Awesome, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go into project 1. Awesome. So I added those protections on the master branch. I can't add a bunch of stuff and push it to the master branch now. That doesn't work anymore. So what I'm going to have to do is create a branch, push that branch, open a PR on GitHub, and then have Chris review it and merge it for me so that it is then added to the master branch. So, creating a branch. I know you guys did this on Saturday. We're gonna to do it really quickly. There's several ways you can do it, but I know that there's nothing in my repo right now or whatever commit I'm currently on. I'm okay with having that code in my new branch. If you just do git checkout with the -b, you can create a branch and check it out. So then I can make the name. Let's say I'm going to call it add index because I'm going to add an index.html. Your branch name should be relatively descriptive. In this case, I want it to add the index.html. If you want to be even better, there's other models for branching called Gitflow and stuff that you can work on with your group. I'm not going to go over them now, but they're nice for organization. Anyway, add index is good enough for me. So I switch this new branch. In here, you know, there's nothing but my README. My README exists. That's great. There's nothing in the README. But I need to add that index.html. So I'm going to go ahead and open VS Code. Boop. And I'm in here. Create the new file. Index.html. This is my index. It's good. Perfect. So, we have a new file. Now, as I've told you before, when we pull changes from our repos, there's something you want to run first, and that's git status. We need to see the status of the repo before we go ahead and commit. Okay, look, I added my index.html. Right here it says on branch add index. That's the branch I have checked out. Untracked files. These are files that haven't been added to the index of Git, so Git does not know that they exist yet, but Git does know that they're weird files, right? So it's like, do they belong in Git? I don't know yet, but they're new here, right? That's what it's saying. If I go ahead and do git add with the dot, or if I do -a, like that, either one works, and then I run git status again, now it's like, okay, you have changes to be committed. Okay, these changes, they have been added to the index, they have been staged, is the proper term. They're ready to go. This is a new file, index.html. That's amazing. Well, I'm getting ready to commit it. I want to check some stuff really quick. I'll worry about git diff later. Anyway, it's ready to commit. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and git commit. If you do -m like this, in quotes, you can do a message, right? But sometimes you'll forget that, and a lot of times you'll do this, and you'll get into this crazy-ass screen. Right now I have Nano actually on here, which is a misconfiguration on my machine. But a lot of times you'll have Vim. If you can't escape from this screen, which is quite possible, you need to hit :X when you're done typing your message. So you have to hit I first. I will put you into insert mode. You'll enter some stuff, you'll hit escape, and then you'll hit :X. That's to exit and save at the same time. I don't need to do that because I'm using Nano, but that's okay. Here, what this screen is saying is enter your commit message. Those # you see on the side are comments. Those comments are not registered in the commit message. The commit message is what I'm saying I did in this commit. It should be something descriptive. It should be present tense. It should not be added the index.html. It should be add the index.html because the commit is doing something to the repo. It is affecting the repo. Okay, that's just best practice. So add a new index.html for the main page. Something along those lines, right? So if I hit Control-X, yes, I go ahead and edit it. I've added a commit, okay? You successfully added this commit. Added new index.html for the main page. Everything's good, hunky-dory. We're good to go. If I do git status now, you're good on add index, nothing to commit. The working tree is clean, right? What that means is you've committed everything. There's no new changes. You're ready to go. If I want to double check that, I can type git log and see all the things I've done. All right? So I want to see what I did. The last commit, the one that shows up first, I added the new index, add new index.html for the main page. Before that was that initial commit we created with GitHub. It tells you some more information. You can get into that later if you'd like. But anyway, just if you want to double check what's been going on. So what's next? We've committed on a repo. We want to put it on a remote, right? It's no good just on a local machine. No one else can get to it. This is an important part. So what do? Well, we have to push the code, right? So the command is git push, and then you specify the name of your remote. By default, when you clone, it's origin, okay? And then you specify the branch you want to push up. In this case, I called it add index. So that's what I'm going to call it on the remote as well. I don't want to change that. You can change it to whatever you want, but it gets confusing. You should just keep it the same. I do that, and it starts pushing. If you've done HTTPS, it's probably going to ask for your password, username, password again. If you have an SSH passphrase, it'll probably ask for that. Either I don't have a passphrase because I'm lazy, or I have something caching and I can't remember. But anyway, no password for me. But you can see you get all this crazy information. Enumerating objects, counting objects, delta compression, blah, 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 crazy stuff. You have the remote right there on the side. It says remote, create a pull request for add index on GitHub. Tells you where you can go to create the PR. And then it says to github.com, my repo, right? cjharvard92/project1 awesome.git. There's a new branch called add index. The first one's your source. And that arrow points to add index, which is the destination. Pretty sure. So it basically says add index on my local machine got pushed up to the remote as add index. If I would have given it a different name, it would have had a different name there. Any questions so far on everything I've done? We're almost done with this example, and then you guys will do it yourself on a test repo. Okay. So I'm up. I can verify with git status again that everything's good to go. As a matter of fact, you can see that GitHub updated automatically for me, which is pretty cool. It knows that I did something. So I could even just go to compare pull request right here. So this is a cheat. You can do that, or the traditional flow is I'd go over to pull requests, okay? New pull request. The base. You want the base to be the branch you are merging into. I am merging into master. So I'm going to compare add index. Okay? The base is the branch you're merging into. That's the one you want your code to go to, not your branch. Able to merge, everything's good to go. It shows a nice diff here of what I've added. I've just added one file with this HTML content. Everything's good. I've verified I like it. Create pull request. So in here I can leave comments, leave something descriptive. Added the index.html so we can get started. Let me know if you have questions about my garbage code. Everything's good. I've added a comment. I need to add a reviewer, right? So there's two ways you can do it. One, I can pick Chris as my reviewer that way, or I can pick Chris as my assignee. Reviewer is meant to be a reviewer. Assignee has better visibility on the UI of GitHub. So there's places where it's easier to find the assignee than it is the reviewer, if you're the assignee. Since Chris is the reviewer, if I assign him as assignee too, it's going to be easier for him to find that information. So I'll just leave him as both. It's a good practice. He'll be able to just go up and click pull request right here, and he'll be able to see I have an open pull request with his name because I made him the assignee. If I made him just a reviewer, it wouldn't be the case. Anyway, ready to go. I create the pull request. It's open. Chris is going to get a notification. He can leave a comment, let me know that it's good or bad or whatever. And then he can go ahead and merge it, and I can actually just chill on this page, and I'll be able to see whatever Chris decides to do. My fate is in his hands. Yeah, just like leave a comment real quick and then merge it. Merge it and delete it. You'll have the option to delete it when you merge it. So I'm good. I'm like, okay, this code's done. I told Chris in person. Chris is like, yeah, I'm on it. I'm reviewing it. We're good to go. He'll get to it. Meanwhile, I can go start working on something else if I needed to. Create a new branch on my machine. I can go back to my terminal here. Right, I'm like, okay, well, add index is done. I'm just going to go git checkout master. Now I'm back on master. I can verify that with my git log. Okay, there's only initial commit. Git checkout b new feature. So I'm going to start working on a new feature. Then I go, oh, my review's done. Your code has some bad smells, but I'll approve it. Well, we can say, am I at fault? Is Chris at fault? Why is the code bad? I don't know. There's a lot of people's hands involved now, right? But anyway, he's decided to approve it. That's what the green check mark says, and everything's hunky-dory here. He has merged it. So now GitHub's told me that it's been merged. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Everything's good. And then GitHub will tell me in a moment that it is... Are you going to delete it?
Oh, you want me to delete it?
Yeah, delete it. A best practice after it's been merged is to delete the branch. So here's the reason why. I've merged it into master. That code exists in master. That add index branch exists on the remote. It does not need to anymore. You have it on your local machine. I still have it on my local machine exactly as when I pushed it, right? Has not changed on my local machine. It has no business being on the remote. It's just going to make the remote look ugly and disgusting and have a bunch of branches out there that don't need to be there. So it's good practice when you merge something on the remote, delete it on the remote. You don't got to delete it locally if you want to keep it for a little while to make sure everything was hunky-dory, right? But it does not need to be on the remote. So whoever's merging, I recommend you merge and delete. Just a best practice for you. You can even go back and restore it at any time. GitHub remembers this for like 30 days. So if it's really that big of a deal that it was deleted on the remote, you can restore it. And, no, that's good. So anyway, we've merged it in. We're good to go. I go back to my code, and nice. Index.html is there. So I go back here, and I'm like, hey, I want my index.html. New features, great. I don't care about new feature. Let's just say it didn't work out. Git checkout master. I can go ahead and go back here, and I can do git pull. And now, I'm on the master branch, but my index HTML exists. I'm up to date. I'm good to go. Now I can go ahead and check out a new branch. And you can see, I still have my index HTML, so I'm at the same point that I was at on the master branch. If I did get log to verify, I've got 3 commits now, my merge commit, which tells me that merge pull request, my commit from adding the index HTML, and then the initial commit, right? So everything's good. We're up to date. I'm starting a new feature now on that up-to-date master branch. We're happy. Any questions on this process? So what I want you to do is find one other, yeah, Kyle?
I was going to say, when you update, like let's say you had several branches, you update the master,
Yeah.
pull in one of those branches, does that automatically update all the other branches?
No.
The master?
That's a great question. So there's several different things you could do to solve that problem. But basically, you know, I have a branch I'm working, and Justin gets his branch merged. Now master's up further a few commits, right? And I'm like, well, I want Justin's changes. What do I do? Well, if I go back to my terminal, git check out new feature. So I had this new feature, right? And you can see index HTML is not there. Okay. One simple way to do it that is there's a couple ways, but the easiest way is to use the git pull command. So I just use git pull from master, and it automatically knew to pull master to master, right? But even though I have new feature checked out, I can still do git pull. So I can still do git pull origin master. This time I have to specify what branch to pull down. So now I'm saying pull the changes from origin master into my branch. And when I do that, it does it. We're good. We're up to date, right? I have the 3 commits, the merge commit, everything. But just for all intents and purposes, say I don't care about the merge commit. I don't want the merge commit. I don't care, right? It's a merge commit. I don't, or better yet, I don't want the merge in my branch, right? I just want to kind of work off whatever's in there and just start fresh. I can go ahead and let me go back. Git reset. Oops. Branch dash F. So this is new feature, and we want it to be an F9272. Oh yeah. Git check out master. Git check out new feature. So if anyway I do ls, okay, I'm back, right? I'm back to where new feature was before I did that last git pull, which automatically did the merge. So remember, I did git pull origin master. This time I'm gonna do the same thing, but like when we do our GitLab pulls, I'm gonna add the dash rebase. What that's gonna do is instead of doing the merge in my branch, I'm just rebasing on the changes that exist in master. So the log looks the same technically, but if I had a bunch of commits, they'd be much cleaner in the history, and it's going to be easier to manage. So I recommend you do that. If you want to update, something's changed in master, everyone update their branches, git pull origin, name of the branch, master usually, dash rebase, that's your best bet. Okay, any other questions? So what we're going to do, I want everyone to pick just one person that you're sitting by or whatever, create a repo, add that other person as a collaborator, kind of go through this process. Create a branch, just add some dummy content, have them merge the branch with a PR, and then reverse the roles, right? Have the other person do the same thing. Just try to go through it as quick as you can, try to get a feel for that process. We'll help you get through it. Spend about 10 minutes doing it, and we'll move on. Yeah?
Over your house and put some bridge for it. Some not.
It's now, it's not just, yeah.
That's fine.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, mine, but, we drank some friends. This one was at the time, and it sounded good at the time, and then the next morning it was cool. Yeah, well, I just need to be.
It's like this replaced the IMC or something.
I created four platforms. I did get commit. You looked at the scout one. It's cool. It's pretty much if you start it gives you the
No, I think just now it's 20. We changed it to its name too. Everything's totally different. Threw it all away. It's gone.
So one quick tip that I think might help people: if you do get status and the text comes up as red, remember the first time I did get status and it was like untracked files. That text is red. If the text comes up as red in your terminal, if you have the colors, it means those files will not be committed if you run git commit. So if you do get status and every file is red, there are no green files, nothing will get committed if you run git commit and nothing will happen. So if that happens, it means you need to do git add first. Anyway, continue.
Well, no, I was doing them. I was kind of asking you guys what you wanted me to do.
You just click on that does it.
Like share on the CD. I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, no, that's
You're by yourself, you're way over there. Except for the guy behind you, but we don't care what you're about.
You get them to say it's hard to
just sabotaging that.
Git push and then your remote. The remote. Your remote.
well, I mean, that's super safe. Not even the owners.
I lasted 2 hours.
I mean,
I only want to use my app.
Go ahead.
Well, that is how you basically
You can set up and be like,
what you're going to be doing is you need to create a repo, you need to create a branch on that repo, and then once you create a branch on that repo, add a collaborator, and once you add a collaborator, well, you're on branch master. Okay. So let's do
Be a branch. So you have to take a branch on, but you need to create another branch. So how do you create a branch?
why don't you have to take part in
I have asthma. Looks like a virus dropped into my lungs. Check out. Closing up everything.
How do I?
Yeah.
How do I see what branch? How do I see my? It's like 4 bills.
Yeah. It's pretty down to it.
Pretty bad because NBA posted so definitely was not good for you.
Everything like push, so get add, period, get.
Yeah, for me, the problem is that
All that, so when you push, you do get, push, or.
There you go.
There you go. Aaron. You're gonna have to accept it, review it, merge it. Got it?
Okay, here we go. We're trying to. So we did that and nothing came up. So right here, you can see nothing come up.
Just have to add a plug to the side here.
I only see.
Well, you already did one.
The next day when I was out here, like yesterday, talking with
Yeah, so you're on branch master. You already have
all
it.
that
Yeah. Here, do LS-A.
Follow your band.
Yeah, there's a GIF file in here. So there's a GIF file in here. So you're at file. So you're already on Slack. You can. All you have to do is. I would.
I show a couple of things that were kind of interesting. I like the log. Because I've never used log.
There's a lot of things. I don't know how to check out.
Yes, we.
So you added me as collaborator.
No, you already added it.
So from here.
This is what you do. I want you to add a readme to your master. Do a get checkout -d, and then you use the branch here. You add a name right here. So branch.
I'm gonna add a branch. Is that what I'm gonna do?
Open a folder.
That's
Once you open a folder,
Okay, just adding a branch.
all this I do from the
So you'll add a readme. That means you're gonna make a readme, and then get add git commit, git push over master, and then do a git push. Get check out that.
So you have test repo files. So I'm gonna add a file.
RF setup.
So I use set here now. The player user and one name in the chat. You look up in,
I'm getting an error. Trying to push that branch out. Failed to push some left to origin.
the code basically is,
No, it's because I.
Or it was,
it doesn't matter, you can see what they can
see two branches is matching.
input through that.
Oh, either way, maybe you can do it from the beginning. Yeah, you select it in the very beginning. You go for which
Sounds like it, man. That's good. That's awesome. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on. If you haven't finished, you'll have plenty of time to work on it later in class, and kind of nail down the particulars. We can help you, but we want to go ahead and move forward a little bit. Okay. So one of the things we want to talk about with product development, we can get into it more later. Who was part of that like Zoom meeting last week where they had the panel of people? Did anyone listen to that? Yeah, you did? So one of the guys on there was Aaron Pantoja. And he's a good friend of mine. We're actually trying to start some businesses together. And one of the things we do is we work on lean product development. Well, one of the things in lean product development is an MVP, your minimum viable product, right? And what that is, basically, it's the minimum amount of code you need to write to create a product to sell to someone. And one of the rules is spend as little time as you possibly can making this product so you can target one problem very specifically and try to solve that problem. Get it into the hands of people who actually need it and need this problem to be solved so they can tell you how else to solve the problem or how to solve the problem better or where you can change your focus so that you're not wasting your time, right? Because you don't want to have a lot of waste in the initial start of a project. You don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of resource, okay? So you don't want to do that. So anyway, when defining your MVP, there's a couple of things you want to do, right? You want to know who your target audience is. You want to know exactly who that is, even if it's just a very niche group. So even if it's like all of the people who use this type of digital camera, I know they have this problem with this kind of something, right? It can be that niche. It doesn't matter as long as you know how to target these people and you know how to get to them. What is the problem that the product will address? Okay, you're solving a specific problem with all these projects. They may not feel like they're going to be the most grand project yet because we're all still pretty new, but you guys can solve some serious problems with what we've learned today so far in this class. So what is the problem the product will address? What is the primary goal of the product? Okay, kind of similar to the other one, but what are you trying to change? You're just trying to solve a product, but you have some goals associated with it. Maybe making some impact or something, right? You're filling some need. And then you also need to identify and prioritize the initial steps you need to take, right? They're often called user stories. So they're ways that you can think about problems that you're trying to solve or technical problems you're trying to solve from the eyes of the user, okay? So instead of saying I need a login page, the user needs to, be able to sign in securely to the service, right? And you can kind of interpret that as I need a login page, I need a login workflow, right? It may not be the best example of user story, but that's kind of what they are. You're supposed to look at it from the customer's needs and the customer's point of view, what problems exist, and that's the problem you're trying to solve, right? And those are the small steps in your initial MVP. So you're going to need a login page. You're going to need, to build a dashboard. If you're doing, there's a couple people I think are doing like music apps, right? Music apps and like a band finding app. So I, as a user, would like to see my favorite band so-and-so and all of their tours or whatever this year. Right? That's kind of a user story. But anyway, the important thing is your MVP should be the minimum viable product. So the fewest lines of code that you can write to solve this problem. The fewest things you can do physically to solve this problem, no matter how small it seems, it can be very, very useful to a lot of people. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I want you all to define your minimum viable product right now. So you already have a product plan, kind of a plan of what you're going to do for the next 2 weeks. You should be targeting very specific questions at this very moment, okay? Who's that audience? Even if they're niche, it's okay. Who is that audience? What is the exact problem you're trying to solve? And then some tasks or things you need to do from the user's perspective of how you're going to solve them, right? So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to slack out those instructions. And I want you to take 5 minutes or so with your group and kind of define your MVP.
You guys push up to the master branch because I own the master branch. You're pushed into a request.
Yeah, check it out.
These are on
So you took over
I can never approve some of these branches. Whoever pushes.
So I did an update drawing,
But I can never approve. I
I updated the branch, but it's still but I created the file.
When you think you've defined your MVP and you've answered some of those questions, slack them out to the channel.
Okay, how come it says 16 minutes ago updated and I'm in 99? Did you name yours as HTML file? So I'm the one who did it.
all I know is that I've seen it in these are audience for our application. The world can't live without architect coders. Could be just like our niche group, people that can do JavaScript. So,
Is this for our project?
yeah. I think some of this stuff would have been nice to talk about before we decided to get going. It's not very detailed, so like there's all that answer that, but it's a working game. Like there's some other things to a card game, so what you got?
I mean, like, do like 2 months. Like, how you
I usually like when
Maybe we just get rid of
You can start it all.
No, it's working on one because I
Can you add it just to HTML?
Yeah. Is it because of how did you assign me as collaborator, assign me or collaborator? So collaborator is able to see, I see this change, the weekly plans.
Yeah, that's true. They really don't care what the cost is.
But there's
There are 3 current branches right now, and that HTML file has been changed.
and it's the same underneath.
Yeah. So why don't
Did you upgrade that branch or loaded that at all? No. So
we ended up just starting all over. We just named it something else so we could hear that.
Another stretch will be allowed in person.
Carson, can you clarify something real quick?
Sure.
So check out means to create a branch, correct?
Yeah. So,
Not downloading. Check out. If you enter us, it's checking it out. So I'm just gonna. Is that what happened?
So let's go nice line now.
so
Render me what?
you
You're gonna do it over
branch that you declare adding the stuff. Oh, did you make? Yeah, like make the branch and then name it something and then.
So what is the order? Because I'm following the instructions that was given to us last time.
Yeah, the flow.
All right. Did everyone kind of talk about their MVP? Kind of get an idea of where they're going with this project?
Yes.
Sort of get a feel? Yes.
I did this one.
Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot more of your time going over stuff. I'll let you guys get into projects here in just a moment. And I want to cover a couple other things that GitHub allows you to do. So one of the things I talked about at the beginning of class was find someone who can kind of manage tasks and be your product owner, right? Who really drives what features they're working on and when and what features need to get done and those kinds of things, right? So GitHub has some tools to let you do that. One is issues. If you find a bug or if you want to start a discussion or something, you can create an issue. So on your repo, you just click issues, go to new issues. From here, you can create a title. This thing sucks. And here is why. And then in here, you actually have the ability to use Markdown. Markdown is kind of, if you're not familiar with it now, it's kind of like HTML in some ways. It lets you format text in special ways, and you add bold. You can add task lists and stuff like that. GitHub allows you to do it. So I can be like, or better yet, this is the title. We need to do more things, such as, and then add a task list, if it'll let me. Thing 1, thing 2. If I go preview this, thing 1 and thing 2 actually have checkboxes next to them. And that was done by doing open bracket space closing bracket. You can actually define checklists in almost every comment box in GitHub. You can use this markdown and do these similar things, right? But I can define checklists. I can make a title bigger, right? So with £1 I got that as the title. I can even show code. So if I do 3 ticks and then I type JavaScript, it'll know that this block is going to be JavaScript. Function full.log. Woo. And then if I go preview it, it's nice and formatted, syntax highlighted JavaScript, right? So there's a lot you can do in these. But anyway, the point being, you can open issues, you can start discussions, you can do this here. You can assign labels if you want, you can assign a project, you can assign assignees, so someone has to see it and address it, and then you can submit the issue. They're nice because they can spawn discussion and kind of be a good place to hone all your thoughts about the project, and they're close to the repo, right? They're right next to the code. They're easy to get to. So anyway, if you want to use those, feel free. They're a good way to help you manage stuff. They also have these projects here that you can use. Now, these are Kanban style boards. Is anyone familiar with Kanban? A little bit? So Kanban is a style that's of like task management that's used a lot in agile project development, especially in software development. It's kind of started, it started with like lean production, I think, which is where agile software development kind of has its roots, because you can view the pipeline of software development very much like a pipeline of lean product development in a manufacturing plant. They're actually very similar. But anyway, I can make a board. So this is project 1 test board, right? They're called Kanban boards, and this can be anything. This could be the bugs. This could be the new features. Let's just call it that. We'll call it the new feature board. Oh, dang it. New feature board. Go ahead and you can click a template. Go down to automated Kanban. Okay, create one for you, create project, and then you get this nice flow right here where you got 3 columns. It tells you a little bit about how you can use them. In this first one, has a little bit about cards. The automated one can let you change where the cards are and what column they're in based off of stuff that happens in your repo. I don't necessarily know exactly how to use it, but it can be a good tool. But anyway, let's say I create a new feature, right? Because these are my to-do features. Add new page for login, right? Or if I want to do it as user story, as a user, I want to securely sign in, so no one can steal my info. And you can see my card is right there. So someone picks up this card, right? You can go here. We can convert it to an issue if we wanted to. We can edit the node, whatever. Say I work on it. I pick it out of the queue. Now I'm working on it. It's in progress. We can see everything that's in progress. I'm done with it. I can move it to done, and we can close out or whatever, you know, based off what's going on. You can create new columns too. So if I go over here, I could say maybe we have a testing column, and maybe this testing column comes before done. So we need to verify that things are tested before they're done. It's a nice way to track things through the pipeline, right? Now, figuring out how to exactly get it automated, I can look into those features if you want. To me, this is kind of less important that you guys know how to use this stuff. It's a tool for you to use. When you join a team, they're going to have their own tools already. There's no way you're going to walk into a team, especially as someone who's coming fresh into the industry, and define how their workflow works, unless you start your own company, right? So I don't know anyone who actually uses GitHub projects. It's one that you can use, though, and it's easy to get to. Yeah, Alex?
So this Kanban thing, is this like a standard?
Kanban's very standard in the industry, yes. Trello, this kind of, with columns and cards and stuff, and being able to drag them across, yeah. A very normal thing. Almost every company will use it in some way these days. So Trello is a big one that you might have heard of. It's this Kanban style. Jira is another big one you might have heard of. It's Kanban style. Visual Studio has Visual Studio Team Services or Azure DevOps that has this Kanban stuff. There's lots of ways you can get to a Kanban type board, and most people use it because it's very effective for tracking your tasks and what's been done, what needs to be done, and all that stuff. So anyway, it's another tool you can use. You can use these to help you manage, you know, what needs to get done, at what time, all that fun stuff. Okay, so the last bit that they want me to mention is stand-up meetings. You don't have to necessarily do this for your project here in class, but a lot of times in the industry, people do what are called stand-ups, especially if they do Scrum, where they'll have a meeting that's literally everyone standing up. The point is they want it to be short. So a stand-up meeting is supposed to be like 15 minutes max. You go around to every person and you're like, what are you working on? What are you stuck on? What do you need help on? What are you doing next? Kind of thing, right? So, you know, we start a stand-up. Everyone at your table would stand up and be like, Garrett, what are you working on? Garrett says, oh, I'm working on this page, whatever. Are you stuck on anything? No, I'm good, man. What are you working on next? I've got this next in the pipeline, right? You just bounce everyone real quick. It's a check-in. So everyone knows what everyone's working on. You can kind of resolve any issues you got. Hey, Garrett says, yeah, I'm actually stuck on this login. Mike's like, dude, I've done that before. I got you. We'll work together, right? They're good for that. They are good. I'd recommend you try to do that. You don't got to stand up. That's okay. But try to do some. You're going to be pretty collaborative in this class, so it's not that important that you stick to a very regimented schedule because we only have so many classes and there's only 4 of you in a group, right? But when you get to a group of 10 people, it's a really valuable thing to do. Because who knows what everyone's doing, right? There's no way you can know. Who knows what problems people have solved? There's no way. Anyway, anything I just covered? Any questions on any of it? Okay, so take a 15-minute break if you'd like, and then work on your project till the end of class. I'm going to stop the stream. If you have questions, streamers, feel free to let me know. But that's it. We're working on projects.